are live. Today is February. It's Tuesday, November 16th. And this is a regularly scheduled council meeting. We will take roll call. Councilperson Benedetti?
Here.
Councilperson McNamara?
Here.
I am Council President Wolf, and I am in fact here. Councilperson Bruger?
Here.
Councilperson Shrimp?
Here.
Councilperson Curl?
Here.
Okay, so we are all here. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have no minutes to approve, so I will make our usual green card announcement, and that is if you are one of the residents that are here with us live and in person, we do have green cards available. You may submit one of those green cards regarding one of the sections of this evening's agenda, and we will work you in, or you can always hold your comments to citizens' comments. And with that, we will send it over to Councilperson Bruger to begin the reading of legislation.
All right, first on the agenda tonight is ordinance 16-2021, an ordinance updating the employee handbook and declaring an emergency. This is only the second reading, as we will have time to pass it on the 14th and have it go into effect for next year or perhaps even the end of this year. The two major changes is that Juneteenth is being added as a recognized holiday by the village. And all part-time employees shall receive 4 hours of holiday pay at his or her regular pay rates. For holidays, we talked to, Finance Committee did talk about this last night, and it would add about $2,200 for the Juneteenth for the year. That's about what the holiday pay is. Adding the few part-time employees, the cost is negligible, because there's only like 1 or 2 people there and they're getting 4 hours. So that was that. I know that some members had questions on that.
Right. There seems to be some confusion regarding the packet, or?
Oh, the one I had, but I thought I had the last one, and the one that was up there at the front says that we're waiving the third reading package.
Yes.
Yes, that was a change that we made at Finance last night. We said, do we need to do that
Yeah.
to get it into effect right now? And we said,
I just thought it said Tiffany sent out an updated package
Yeah.
today.
On the updated packet, it has the past date is December 14th on it.
Okay, but they didn't change the
Yeah.
agenda.
you didn't
Okay,
see the
yeah.
agenda.
So,
Alrighty, I just wanted to clarify.
yep, no, so that, thank you for that, because I was going off
Here,
the
we can
packet
confirm
instead
with
of
Jesse. Jesse, as long as we're going slower than it says in the agenda and not faster, we don't have to make a motion to amend the agenda.
That's correct. Yeah, you're right.
There you go.
All right, ordinance 17-2021, an ordinance to make appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the village of Minerva Park for the year ending December 31st, 2022. Second reading. This is the budget bill, guys.
All right.
Looking to be passed on the 14th. We'll have one last work session before then, so comb through it if you want, and we can bring it up and talk about budget items then. Ordinance 18-2021, an ordinance establishing health care benefits for employees and the mayor and authorizing the purchase of health insurance and declaring an emergency. However, this is also just the second reading. Some of this is just normal, okay, let's adjust the rate because insurance rates change. But I believe section 11 is new. Part-time employees will be eligible for major medical coverage as described above after 90 days of employment. Employees must average at least 20 hours worked per week. Can you guys remember, was it $4,800? It was $4,200 the village would cost to cover a part-time employee if they wanted to. And it is just them. It is just major coverage, so I'm not gonna pick on our plan or not, because I don't know anything about it, but I doubt it's the greatest. And it would not be, they couldn't add people to it. They wouldn't be able to add a family coverage or children. It would just be themselves. So anything on that, anyone?
Oh, there's another meeting to discuss that.
Yeah, we can discuss
Okay.
that at the work session.
Awesome, so we'll move that if we wanna discuss it to there. Keep things trucking along. Ordinance 19/2021, an ordinance updating the wage and salary ranges, number of employees and positions for the of Minerva Park. Just a second reading. We've talked about this before. Most of the bottom numbers came up a little bit, some to reflect minimum wage changes. The top number stayed the same. All right, ordinance 2021, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the Village of Minerva Park for the year 2021. Second reading. This is reconciling the budget. Resolution 2021-32, a resolution authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into various reoccurring contracts necessary for the continuous operation of the village. Now with this one, this is the third reading. Hey, we finally get to vote and talk about one, guys. This is a third reading. So I am going to move for passage.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Brian Wolf. Any discussion?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. In the last meeting, I brought up the flow line and the resource, being at the last two on that list. And, you know, it's not an issue, it's not a trust issue that I have with the mayor with regards to this. It's more along the lines it's not, flow line and resource are not reoccurring contracts that we do every year. Granted, we may have agreements with them. Lately, we've had agreements with them, but it's not one of those things. I would say that I hope that we don't have a contract with flow line and resource, because there's nothing at this point today where we need resource or flow line. Now, we may, it's very well possible that we will need them next year. But this ordinance or resolution is for the every year reoccurring contracts or agreements, not necessarily contracts or agreements. And flow line and resource aren't one of those.
So,
I would like to have those two taken off.
Okay, so the procedure for that is you would make a motion to amend the resolution, and you would say, I motion to amend. I believe you will need a second, but someone down here can confirm that. Jesse's shaking his head. And then with a second, then you would
I
state.
move to amend the list of entities, and eliminate flow line and resource.
All right, and
second?
seconded by Council President Wolf. Discussion on the amendment. This is no longer on the resolution. This is on the amendment to remove flow line and Resource International as maker of the amendment. Councilperson Benedetti, if you'd like to speak on it. I know you just kind of
Well, I
did, but if you
well,
just want to say, yep, I said it.
My reason for doing this is for clarity. And it's, to me, it has no place in this resolution that the mayor's already approved or given the authority to enter into a contract with. I wish she already has the authority if the money's been appropriated, so she doesn't need this. And my point on this is that it's just for clarity, in that flow line and resource are not a reoccurring contract that we do every year. Although we may likely have a contract with them, it's not.
So that
We don't.
Tony, the counter argument is that I can't remember a year in which the village hasn't had a contract with Flowline. Right? Because a contract is any agreement with consideration, meaning that if two parties agree and someone pays another person, that's a contract. Right? So we have not had a year without a contract with Flowline for at least the last decade. Now, just because the nature of that contract is a little bit different than the nature of the contract that we have with, say, the village engineer or KGT, doesn't mean that we don't have recurring contracts with them. We do. It's just that the nature of it is different. Right? Now, I will agree that the relationship of our business with Resources International is very different than all these other ones. And I 100% agree that that one doesn't belong here because our relationships with them have been larger bidded projects. So I agree that this is a different animal there. But I'm not going to sever your motion to have one or the other. But I just wanted to let you know how and where I agree and disagree with you.
Okay.
For clarity on the question, when it says recurring contract, is there an assumption in there that the contract's identical to the prior contracts? And when they say recurring, it means a new agreement.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
again,
that's a good question. It
Right.
can be, it could be that we have an agreement with them, a standing agreement with them, that we enter into different terms each year, or it's the same contract over and over, like the law firm's contract has been the same over and over,
Yeah.
that would be a recurring. So it's really,
Right.
it depends.
Or-
Well,
Or
I'm
the-
not
or the-
trying to nitpick, I just,
Or that the change is, I don't wanna say inconsequential, but within,
Immaterial.
immaterial, right? Like if, you know, if the vendor's contract were every year the price goes up 2%, sure, it changes every year because the number changes, but is 2% enough to make the mayor come back and talk to us again over that 2% change? Probably not.
well, if there were material changes.
But if there were material changes, I think that that then makes it not a recurring contract, right?
Right.
Because what's recurring is base service for base price.
Now, do we have contracts, I should know this probably, but, that have options in there, that have, sections that, go from year to year, or time period to time period?
I mean, I
I'm sure we do. I don't, ours is, ours is to, renew at the beginning, at the end of the second year.
yeah,
So it doesn't, there's no option for anybody to pick up, it just sort of, it's a 2-year contract.
Yours is a 2-year agreement, some of them are 1-year
Right.
agreements, and
sometimes the trash, depending on what gets agreed upon, has been anywhere from 1 to 3, I think, in my time around here. So. And sometimes it's been written as multi-year with an option to cancel early.
Or
Yeah.
additions or deletions?
Yeah,
Well, see, that's interesting, cause the
trash isn't in
trash
there.
isn't on there
Yeah,
because.
because
Well,
that's a bid
That's
process.
a bid process.
well, that's not a
automatically.
contract that we enter into.
It is a contract we enter into.
Sure it is.
But it's also a bid process, so it has to be,
Wow.
you can't put a company name down because we have to bid out the project. All right, anyone with any other, debate on this, on the amendment?
So I think we have to
We have to do a roll call, so this is,
No, wait
do a
minute.
new motion to
No,
adopt
because we-
as amended.
because we have
Oh.
amended.
That's right, we have to vote
We
on the
need to do a
amendment.
roll call to adopt the
Okay,
amendment before
yes.
we go to the main motion.
Thank you for keeping better track than me. So this is the
That's
roll
okay.
call to adopt, or to amend the legislation.
By removing Flowline and Resource International from the list of contract
Yes.
vendors.
Councilperson Pearl,
Aye.
Councilperson Shrimp,
Sure.
okay, Councilperson, Ruger,
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara. So we are just amending this legislation, striking those two names from it.
Yeah, my problem is I'm in favor of the flow line, because if we need something
Well, then
fast,
vote no.
that'd be,
Doesn't prohibit us from continuing to do work with them.
yeah, that's true. You know, the Resource International, I could see how that'd be a different animal, I'll say aye.
All right, and Councilperson, Benedetti,
Aye.
and Council President Wolf is also voting aye.
All right, so resolution 2021-32 has been amended. It being the third reading, I will now move for passage as resolution 2021-32 as amended with the removal of Flowline and Resources International from the list of contractor/vendors.
And I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amended ordinance? Sounds like roll call time.
All right, so we will start this time at Councilperson Shrimp,
Aye.
Councilperson Ruger.
Aye.
I'll take my turn now. Council President Wolf is voting aye.
I will vote aye as well.
For Councilperson McNamara, that was an aye. Councilperson Benedetti
Aye.
and Councilperson Pearl.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, last on our list for tonight is resolution 2021-36. A resolution adopting the rules of council for the council of the Village of Mineral Park for 2022. The only thing I'll say about that is I still think it's crazy that we adopt those before the new year when we have new council after, but that is just a personal thing of mine, and I don't really have enough care about it to say anything other than I don't like it.
All right.
That's all the more I'm gonna go into it.
And as Councilperson Ruger gets off his soapbox, we can move on to old business.
Well,
I agree with the soapbox for what it's worth, but I'm not gonna get yelled at.
well, I'm assuming Jesse's here to maybe try to address some of the concerns I shared with everyone in emails today, or over the weekend. I guess the question I have is whether we've approved the design development documents for Garmin Miller.
Sure.
Do you,
Mayor forwarded me the traffic, so I saw it. I think I'm caught up. I mean, this is how I read them. The resolution from 2020 said, I think section 2020-32 said, the cost will be outlined in the final agreement and will require approval from council. Then in 2021-17, section 1 said the mayor is hereby directed to enter an agreement for architectural services. And section 2 said the cost will be $116,935 as outlined in the attached proposal. I think that she then signed it after 2021-17 directed her to enter the agreement. And so yes, I think we have entered it with council's vote on it.
Right, so I think Councilperson Benedetti's question is that beyond that agreement, in the work products of the project, one of them is, what's the word we're looking for?
Can I, all right, okay, that isn't the question I just asked, Jesse.
Okay.
Okay, you just answered a different question.
Okay.
Well, no,
I'm trying to help you because if they don't understand your question, and I think I
God,
do.
it was pretty clear,
Well,
but.
but obviously not, so that's why I'm
No,
trying to help you, but go
I
ahead.
appreciate that, because, because he started talking about the next question. So let's just circle back and we'll stick with this train of thought.
Okay.
What we're gonna do right now is, okay, now I'm gonna read to you again. The cost of the project, this is from 2020-32, the first resolution, which authorized the mayor and directed her to negotiate an agreement with Garmin Miller. Okay? I would like to say the first part of it, the first whereas, I would say, oh, here it is, okay. It's on, no, that's not it. All right. The original resolution says the cost of the project will be outlined in the final agreement. Now, it's been your interpretation that the thing that we needed to approve in this most recent resolution was the cost, not the final agreement. Is that accurate?
Yes, because I read that section in the first resolution to say, and I'm looking at it, that's why I have my phone up. The cost of the project will be outlined in the final agreement and will require approval from council. I read that to mean council needs to approve the cost of the project.
Okay, well, this is the crux of the issue, is that I read this to be that the thing that council needs to approve is the final agreement, which is, and the cost is outlined in the final agreement. So you can't approve the cost without the final agreement. That's the point, right there. You can't.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I read that to say, village, the whereas clause as you referenced, village council recommends the village enter an agreement with Garmin Miller. The mayor is authorized and directed to negotiate an agreement for architectural services. The cost will be outlined in the final agreement and will require approval from council. The way that sentence reads to me, it's very naturally, council has to approve the cost of the project.
Yes.
But approving the cost of the project is more complicated than what you say it is, 106, the cost of the project has many costs. It has a cost at the time of the schematic design. It has a different cost at the end of the design development. It has multiple costs. And it wasn't necessary for us to approve the cost of the project. What's necessary and what was the intent of that resolution, from my standpoint, is that we asked the mayor to negotiate a contract, and council was given the authority to approve that agreement. That's what that's the intent of that resolution. It is not to approve the cost, because again, the cost is a changing thing. And because if this number, $116,000, is the estimated total cost of the project, it could change dramatically if we decrease the size of the project, because the fee is based on 7.5% of the construction cost. And that construction cost is defined in the final agreement. So you can't determine what the costs are without having the final agreement. And that's where I believe it was masterfully done in the language that was used to write 2020-32. And then, okay, let me go on to my next point, is that,
Well, hold on.
all right,
I'm
no,
I'm struggling
okay,
to
let's-
understand the point you just made.
Before we move on to the next point, it is still unclear what this point is. So it would only behoove us to state either you are conceding whatever this point is, and we're kind of done with it, or we get to understand.
Okay, but
Otherwise,
I would
we're
like
just-
to go around the room maybe and understand, what do you think the intent of the resolution when we authorize the mayor to negotiate a contract? I wanna keep harping on that because that's my next point. We authorize the mayor to negotiate a contract, and then we were supposed to give the final approval, or to approve the final agreement. We never did that. We have never had an opportunity. Has anybody even
Hold
seen
on,
the final?
Hold on. You started to ask a question, and then you went back on a rant.
Okay,
So
I'm sorry.
let's finish the question, put a question mark on the end, so then we can go around and have that discussion.
What do you think the intent of this resolution was? Was it that we should approve the cost, or that we should approve the final agreement? It's that simple,
My reading was that it was an approval of the cost.
okay?
Well, when it says authorized to negotiate, there's no specifics on what to negotiate. So is this an open-ended arrangement, or a person could negotiate basically anything? And if somehow or other we proved it in advance?
It was to negotiate an agreement for architectural services related to the community building.
That implies a cost to me. But
Well, remember, we had, this was passed at the end of several months where we looked at proposals from 4 different engineering architect firms. We interviewed 2 of them. We decided which one we would most want to go to. And so, yes, to me, we said, the mayor, you can enter into a contract with this company. We give you that authority. And we will have to approve the cost of that, which we did at 100 and whatever it was, $116,000. And that one says, a council will approve the cost, not the contract. I mean, that's what the words say though.
What's that?
That's what the words say. Right?
The
I mean,
words
that's
are
what the
very
sentence is.
unclear, because it says the cost of the project will be outlined in the final agreement and will require approval from
Yes.
council.
So the
it's
subject,
ambiguous.
so the
Are they-
subject of that sentence is the cost of the project. It's telling where those will be found in the final
Okay.
agreement, and are subject, the cost is the subject of that sentence. The cost will be
Approved by council.
It will be
approved by
outlined and it will
council.
require approval.
Yeah.
That's a very clear, simple sentence.
But I would say, but the costs, there are many costs that are outlined in.
But what
And
we
even
said
if
is
I
you
did-
can spend $116,000, and if it goes over that, we haven't authorized it, and you're
That's right.
done, you're out of
That's right.
luck.
That's it, yeah.
That's sort of the end of it,
That's right.
right? That is,
Well, all right.
We
Joe,
said $116,000
Let's go
is
around
fine.
here, I hear two, saying that we should have only approved the cost.
I have another question.
No, I said that we have approved the cost, not that we
Well,
only
I'm
should.
talking about what the intent, or what this sentence means.
Well, he just told you what he thought the sentence.
sorry.
Well, is there an assumption in this that, that the negotiation is strictly for the price and the price only?
No,
No,
No, that's what I.
no,
I'd
we're
like to
just,
clarify.
no.
no, there's the term, and this is where the terms of the contract have been decided, or I wouldn't say the terms, but some of the details of the contract were the decision of the mayor solely.
Because we gave her the right to enter into that negotiation.
And the right to, you're right, and we gave her the right to take us out of the process.
Yes.
And that's what she did.
Which
You know, that's what
process
I-
did she take us out of?
What's that?
Which process are you saying we were taken out
To
of?
be able to review the construction documents.
Construction documents haven't been produced yet.
They're in the process
Right.
of being produced.
Well, I talked the schematic design documents.
I've
Okay.
looked at those no less than 4 times and
Yeah.
given suggestions, and some of them
Okay.
have made it and
Yeah.
some of them haven't. I mean,
Yeah.
What were
this
the-
council
okay,
has,
What were the schematic design documents?
The preliminary blueprints we were sent in.
Which one?
We got one like a month and a half
Yeah.
ago?
So you're asking what is the final work product that is?
And that was
named-
one of my questions that,
So,
I asked to see.
So hold on,
This-
so your new question is, what is the final schematic that is
the basis for making the construction plan.
that's your
Actually, you
question?
haven't-
No, there's two different drawings. She's already
You're gonna
approved.
get that next.
She's
Okay.
already approved the schematic design documents.
Okay.
So our meeting just 5 minutes.
Council,
Our
I have
meeting-
to excuse myself, but this is the second time the wife's tried to call me in 5 minutes.
We had a meeting
Alright, must
in the
be
prior
important.
week.
Hello?
We are gonna present to you what the exteriors are, there's a lot of finalizations, and the council will get to see all those, and if we need to make any additional adjustments, those will be done, and then things are going out for the bid documents, which will then, we're aiming for a early January release to bid things. So this council will clearly get to see the results of that feedback.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
the next my first question of the evening was, have the design development documents been approved by the mayor?
Look, I'm gonna put it to you this way. She's gone through and approved stuff. We as a staff have been part of that discussion. This council has been part of that discussion. What you're gonna get now are a final set of draft documents. And if there are any changes to that, all the final changes are then going into what's gonna become the final bid documents to be produced. So we're at the end of that process, whatever you wanna call it.
Well,
Eric,
It doesn't
if-
matter.
If I can, let me, again, I'm just trying to make sure we're all talking
Yeah.
the same language. Because Tony asked a very specific question, and I think I caught it, have the design development documents been approved? So, what do you believe is included in the design development documents?
once the design development documents.
No, not once,
It's-
what are the things that are included in the design development
For those
documents?
of us
There
not
should
familiar
be-
with jargon.
The final, the floor plan that they are going to start working the construction documents from.
Okay.
Okay?
And should be an estimate, or they should determine if there's any change to the cost. Because each phase, and this is my question, is that.
Wait, no, we're still
Okay.
dealing with your old question. You
Okay.
can't move on to the new question until we've dealt with the old question, please.
Okay.
One at a time.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so far, what I have heard enumerated as part of the design development documents is a final floor plan and any statement if there is a substantive change to the estimate of cost.
Right.
And that's it.
No.
Okay,
And
so what
I'd
else?
also like to have,
Well, no, not what you would like to have. What is defined as design development
no,
documents?
okay, that's all that
That's it, that's everything that's in there.
in design
So,
development document.
going back to what I've heard, I have heard that the schematic the design schematic for the floor plan has been approved.
Yes.
That has been
that's correct,
finalized.
From the last feedback. Now,
Okay.
there's still it's still a final?
Yeah, so, we're getting.
Because we said we want these
Yeah.
modifications,
Right.
they're
And
coming
you're
up
correct.
and giving us a new.
Right, and that, plus the exteriors that are yet to come,
Yes.
would be what goes into the bid document.
Correct.
And at that point in time, once we have the externals and the floor plan put together, that's when I would expect any statement of a change to the estimate of cost, right?
Correct.
Because that's when we have finalized what we're doing.
Correct.
So does that clarify that, no, that yes, everything that you have, no, that the floor plan is about as finalized as it's gonna get?
And that would be the architect's estimate, which is generally fairly conservative.
Yeah.
If you want to put out the bid, he wants to be within 10%.
Okay,
What he
so,
thinks the market is.
so does that clarify for you? Did I-
Or just the design development document.
Yes. You're clear now. Okay, now what was your next question?
The next question is there should have been a specific amount of what the construction costs will be in the schematic design. It
There
would
will be an architect's estimate that comes back, and we'll share that, obviously, the finance
Yeah.
advisor's gonna
But
have
that should have already been,
No.
it's part,
We'll
yes,
need
it
to
is.
make
It's-
that-
I've got the contract right here. Okay, would you like me to
Go
read?
to the
I'll read
contract.
from the contract.
Please, by all means.
I'm going to.
Here, before you do that, let me ask a question. If we don't have the external designs completed, how can we
Yeah.
have any estimate?
The final estimate's coming, okay? It's coming.
Okay, well,
Okay,
that's
so
all,
now go ahead,
that's all part of the design development documents.
Wonderful.
But there's also the schematic design documents, which should have a new cost number,
Okay,
okay?
Okay.
That should have already been approved.
okay.
And that's, what I would like to see is exactly what the floor plan was for the schematic design phase.
Right, I don't believe that that has been finalized.
It has to, because you can't go past that to get to where
Well-
we're at. She's already said,
There is a-
according to Garmin Miller, we're in the design development
Yes,
portion
we
of.
asked that question, and we're like, where do you think we are? And they're like, here, okay, great. Because honestly, what we're getting to is what's gonna be released to you next, and then that's going to go out the bid. The most important part of this process is to get the bid documents, to get
No,
the
no, it
plans,
isn't.
it is.
The most important part, and this is how I'm gonna end this, okay? Is that the most important part of this process is that we start to get the residents of the village involved. And I wanna get this done before the design, or the, construction documents start to be put together.
You really have to.
Because the mayor and some of you guys have already decided that this is the best way forward and that we're doing the best for the village and they shouldn't have any right to have any say in this. Because we're getting to the point where there's no turning back, this is the floor plan and we're moving forward with it. And I think we need to let the residents of the village know that we're about to spend $1.5 million on this particular floor plan.
You have to vote for that, by the way.
What's that?
You get to vote, well, you don't technically get to vote on it, but the council at the time will get to vote on if the bid's accepted or not.
Mhm.
So
So,
what-
the council
what-
gets to
what are
approve
the-
it, or not approve it.
What
But if we wait till that point, we will be, and if we decide not to do it, then we're down $80,000. You know, that's what you guys don't get to
Well,
do.
no, we do, we'll be down $116,000.
$116,000.
Because that's what we're paying Garmin and Miller to
Not,
get us to the final
it's
bid
not,
document.
they're not getting paid if we stop in the middle of the contract. They're not getting hundreds, that's what you guys don't understand.
So-
Is
no,
that-
I
Wait a
understand.
minute, let me finish.
No,
If
because
this-
I'm tired of you telling me what I don't understand.
Okay.
Because
tell me-
I
tell me where I'm
understand
wrong. Tell me.
that if we get to the point where we approve this, we will spend $116. Yes, if I understand if we, $116,000. Yes, I also understand if halfway through we say, you know what, Garmin Miller, we don't like what you're doing, stop all work for us, we will owe them less money. So I do understand that.
Well, that's
I don't
what you
think-
just said.
No, that's exactly what
That
it
is
You said no
exactly
matter
the
what,
words
you said
I
that
said.
we will owe them.
Yes, if
106
we get to the point where we look at their final construction documents and say, thank you for making these, we're not going to build this building, we will have spent $116
No, we
for
won't. See,
that.
that's where you're wrong.
That's what
Be-
you're
Probably a little less.
No, because
Probably a
there's-
little less.
it's gonna be a lot less, you know?
Let's make that
It'll take it,
decision.
it will be about, it'll be, 25% of the contract.
So Tony,
Less.
is what you're suggesting that you intend to stop the progress on the Garmin Miller contract?
I'm gonna do a referendum. You know,
On
that's
what?
Where?
On what?
I'm like,
okay.
You
when
have
it
to have
gets
some
to-
legislation to do referendum.
Okay,
on.
okay, then at that point, it probably will be $116,000.
You're right.
Right.
It will be.
Okay.
So I catch the community involvement, that's something I'm obviously big on. So that being said, we have had, you know, the open house, at least one time, but, you know, communication is a human process can always be improved. What do you see the solution being to increasing resident involvement? What else can we be doing that you
What
see
we
being
should start
productive?
to look at is other plans, because there's people in this village that were on, I'd say people, members of the facilities committee are not crazy about this drawing that we're going forward with. Okay, and until you get the residents involved, and it ends up going to a referendum, and at the very end of it, we've wasted all this money. And you haven't gotten the residents involved at all
So-
in this particular plan.
So Tony, I believe you failed to answer David's question. By get the residents involved, what actions are you looking to have taken?
What I'd want to see us do is say that this is what we're thinking about doing, and have these meetings that you're talking about.
We
we
did
had one.
have an open house at one
We
point.
didn't,
but-
that open house was not about the meeting, it was an open, forum,
Mhm.
and there was no specific topic.
No, actually, we very specifically told people we were talking about the upcoming building that night. And we had the proposed floor plan available.
Like I said,
and
I'm
discussed it.
wasting my time with this group, I'll just wait for the next.
Well,
Thanks for listening, though.
Well, Tony, I guess my
Because like I
question,
said, you guys have been warned.
because my question to
And it's
you,
you're the ones that have been involved in the your track record, $40,000 that the last building attempt,
Yeah.
cost the residents.
I did everything I could to help save us that money.
it was
Well,
the referendum that cost the village that money, and had it not been overturned, we would have a new community building for about 1.2
But the
million.
point is
That
that
would be a
75,
third
but
takeoff
here's
by
the
now.
thing that
Yeah.
you guys
Revenue
fail to
stream.
grasp, is that 75% of the residents didn't wanna do it. What you guys thought was in the best interest of those residents.
75% of the voters of that election, I believe, did vote no.
I am right.
I agree with your math, I disagree with your interpretation, but that's a different.
Now,
conversation.
I will have one last question for you then, Tony.
Okay.
So you think we need more community involvement into the floor plan? So should we have polls? Should we have votes? Should we have people come in, put up floor plans? Should we hire another architectural firm to come up with alternate floor plans, cost them out, and then vote on which ones they want?
I have continually said, and here's the other question that I haven't had answered, why is it more expensive to move the community building over?
Tony,
Because it
hold
is.
on, wait,
That's
that
been
was a
answered.
complete what about, right? He asked you a question. He asked you very specifically,
Okay, I'm sorry.
even more specifically, what is this community involvement you're looking for? He said, do you want polls? Do you want to solicit another,
Okay,
We would,
architect?
because we would have to.
How
What I
split it
want to
different-
do is start
different-
talking about the other options, which is Beth McFarland's drawing.
So
That's
do
the
you
drawing.
think we should put up and I don't know Beth McFarland, and she's a resident, and she's a professional architect. I'm sure she's skilled, I have no basis one way or the other, but we should take her design and put it on a Facebook poll, invite people to look at that one and see which one they look better. And if we're gonna do that, do we first need to get hers cost analyzed, like have someone look at it, have Garmin Miller devote more hours to saying, this one's gonna, because we have an idea of how much the one we have is gonna cost now. So we would need to give the residents information, we would need to give them information. It can't just be, I like that one better, if we're going to spend money. So how would we do that?
Like you had said, let's say this is, here's an idea. There's the two choices. We want this one or this one. What do you like?
So we've already engaged an architect that we are paying to do work, right? So to put these two
So
plans.
you want us to hire another architect
Yeah,
firm
yeah, to
to
put these
work
two
with
plans
her
on
and
the
come up with
same
a cost
footing.
analysis?
We
All
would
you
need-
got,
We would need to hire a second architect to do the same amount of analysis so that these two plans are on the same footing. Right, because one right now is a loose idea, right, that, sure, that makes, that.
it's a loose idea from an architect.
Yeah,
You
loose
know, so
idea
how
from an
much more
architect.
work do you
Did
think-
this architect do the same kind of programming work that Gorman Miller did? Did they have the same access to the needs gathering, all of
You're
that?
coming up with a bunch of rhetoric right here. You're
No,
just-
that's what an architect does.
That's why we
She
have
is
a
an
firm
architect.
of people with
She is an
engineers
architect.
and.
She
Right.
is an but this is what you guys want to discount. She's an
No, I'm
architect.
not discounting her.
And her drawing,
I
square
said-
footage wise, I mean, I don't know how much more, the process for coming up with a construction cost is a square foot, you know? So you got the square footage, what's so hard about figuring out whether this will be within the budget?
I will say that Beth McFarland's, designs were made available to Gorman Miller.
Mhm.
They're also, of course, on the website. And we gave them that information when they, first got started. So they had that design. And in addition to that, I know I was pretty, forceful about wanting the community room on the side as well. So they're saying it would be too expensive. So, I mean, that's where we're at. The village can't afford the dream job. So yeah, they could put the community, what we could do is say, we insist on you stop spending another $10,000, whatever it costs, give us a quote for the community room on this side. Because I think that's all you're talking about. You talk about other residents, but I don't think you really care. I think your idea is to have the
It
community
is
room.
not just mine.
A community room on this side. So if it's that important and the next council wants to do this, then get a quote from these architects and say, damn it, we wanna know how much it's gonna cost. We know it'll be more expensive. We know it's outside our 1.4 mil that we're gonna spend, but we wanna know anyway. How much is it gonna cost? And that's where that's
Like
where
I
we're
said,
at.
dealing with this group, I'm done.
Yes, we must be very infuriating for you.
You guys will, and you know, the good news is you get to keep hearing it, you know, for the, whatever we decide to be, what the citizens' comments will be in the future. Because this, you know,
Anyway, that would be my recommendation, because that is the main issue, is,
To get the actual cost difference.
Right.
That's the complaint that
I mean,
hear
we got
from lots
the
of residents.
cost differences when we did the original, when we did the facility, we got the deluxe, we got the cost for the
Yeah.
deluxe, we got the cost for the modified, we got the cost for the other, so.
It would be nice to have a real delta, not just a hand wave of,
Oh,
it
it's
is,
more expensive.
it will be more
If
expensive.
I may, they did produce something, and I don't know if there was a
We just
disconnect.
never got to
Okay, then
us.
there may be something didn't get from the
Probably never
mayor
got
to
to
the
us.
rest.
Yeah, so
Okay,
if there is
so
a
let me
real-
read this to you as I
Go
looked it
ahead.
up.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so police addition to the west, community admin addition to the east. Based on the program, the community addition would be much larger to accommodate the required spaces on one level. Parentheses, to comply with ADA guidelines, since existing grades fall away to the east-southeast, additional site work will be required to resolve the grades. Additional site work will also be required to relocate displaced parking. A large addition to the east will also obstruct the national flow of stormwater, requiring additional site work. Estimated budget increase is between $100,000 to $150,000 to do it this way.
There you go.
So, sorry I didn't get to you, I thought it did.
Yeah, that never got to
I will ask the mayor to send that around again, I
Okay.
thought she did,
Yeah.
she got it, so.
Yeah, that is exactly
Yeah,
the
so it was
work
done.
that I think Tony's been asking for months.
Mhm.
So, but yeah,
I'll
we
make sure
never,
they get to
it
it.
never, I know it never got to me, I'm gonna assume it never got to Tony.
So it seems the debate is then, how much is a inverted community building and the view that would come with it worth, and is that worth $150,000? Seems to be the crux of this question.
Yeah, and I don't know that the worth, the value is any different than what you'll see out here versus there, right? I mean, that's an
I
aesthetic
think it's
thing.
purely negligible myself, but I think
Yeah.
that that is the debate.
Yeah,
I mean, to
Is that
frame
a
it-
fair
to frame it in
assessment?
context, it's a 10% increase in cost.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah. Can I ask just one question to you two? Have you ever looked, like I'd asked you, at Beth McFarland's drawing?
Yes.
And
I wrote emails back to them saying, I really like the idea for this or that, I replied to them. So, yeah.
Just curious. Okay, you know.
All right, any other old business?
Yeah, let me go, because here's another one, I wanna get back to resolution, 2021-17. And it says,
You mean ordinance?
no, I'm talking, no, 2021-17.
Oh, so you're-
I'm going back, I'm going backwards.
Okay.
Because here's, you know, this will be my last, thing for this evening. Here it goes, all right, it says the village council approved resolution 2020-32, authorizing entry into a two-phase contract.
Yep.
Okay, now let's read what it says in 2020-32, authorize the mayor to negotiate. This is what why I kept harping on the word negotiate. 2020-32, authorize the mayor to negotiate a contract.
Yep, and she entered into a
Okay,
two-phase
hold
contract.
on.
We've already gone
Language
over that 2020-32.
Could you please,
Let me
thank
finish
you.
this thing.
I can say.
The second, okay, in 2020-17, it says that resolution 2020-32 authorizing entry into a two-phase contract.
Correct.
How does negotiate
It
become
With
entering?
a $12,000 contract.
You negotiated, the first 2020 resolution, authorized the mayor to enter and negotiate an agreement for architectural services. She entered a two-phase contract for a feasibility study, which was completed, and then the design services, which we verified through resolution 2021-17. Now, perhaps 2020-32 did not specifically say, enter a two-phase agreement. I will concede that point. But it authorized the mayor to enter into an agreement that ended up being a two-phase agreement. We then passed that by resolution 2021-17. And if I may, I'm almost certain that everyone on council understood that when this was passed in an open meeting.
I can't say that what I understood or not that long ago.
Sure.
I'm gonna assume that if I voted on it, I'm going to assume I understood.
And because that first agreement, the first resolution said the cost of the project will be outlined in the final agreement and will require approval. Section 2 of the 2021 resolution outlined the cost of the project in the proposal as attached, and it was then approved.
Yeah.
It's clear, it isn't, you know, the language is the two-phase, why you threw in the two-phase language in this? It's,
You're right, I didn't need to.
What's
It
that?
also, I didn't need to, it also didn't hurt anything.
It was, the reason you needed to do that was to make it, is to convince the council that we were in the middle of a two-phase agreement that we can pass as an emergency.
You are placing nefarious thoughts about me, but I truly do not care. I was tasked with drawing the ordinance and said what the agreement the mayor had entered into.
So Tony, if I recall the dispute that you are trying to raise again, it was the question of whether we needed to pass it as an emergency or not, because there was argument that we were passing a subsequent piece of legislation based on a previous one. And we wound up passing it as an emergency, right? That's what, if I recall, we wound up passing it as an
Yes.
emergency.
Yes, we did.
Because it was belts and suspenders, right? Meaning that we didn't have to. There was no right of referendum. It was going into effect immediately because it was a subsequent portion, and we still passed it as an emergency just to make sure.
That's right.
No, see that, you know what?
No, I believe we passed out an emergency so they could get on with the work.
Well, no, but
That's
yeah,
exactly
that's
what
what
it
it
is.
is.
That's what the
All
language
those-
says here.
Yeah.
Because to move on, you know,
Yeah.
to move on with the project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can go right away.
We can get, but it would have, we could have gone ahead right away, even as, because it was subsequent legislation.
Correct.
And once you've started a project, right, you really don't have right of referendum in the middle of it.
We hadn't gone in, we had started we had an agreement before this contract for them to do initial
Or the feasibility study.
feasibility
That was a
study.
two-phase contract though, do the feasibility
It's
study
two-phase
and then
for
do
them.
that.
No, it's the second phase of Garmin Miller's project. The first
Which we had
phase,
already approved the whole project.
we did not approve Garmin Miller to be, or did not approve the contract until 2017. We didn't approve an agreement in 2032. It was to negotiate for the contract.
Yes, which he did, and then we were gonna approve the final
So,
price,
you know,
which we did in 2017. I can keep explaining it if you want, but I don't think
Yeah, the
it's
facts-
gonna change anything.
Unfortunately,
Fine,
Tony,
until I get a lawyer.
unfortunately, Tony, the facts don't change no matter how much you don't understand.
Well, if this means enough to you that you wanna do financial harm to the village by suing it over the wording of a 2-year legislation, hire a lawyer.
I can't afford that, but that's my point, is that the only way you get around here, anything, is that you get to do whatever you want. If you don't like it, get a lawyer, Tony. You know?
It works, that is
Unfortunately, the way it works.
both for the good and the ill of it, that's how life works.
Well,
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah,
So,
everybody
so
is.
Tony, you've indicated that he is, I think you've indicated you're done with that topic, and that was also your last old business. Does anyone else have any old business? Does anybody have any new business? Going once, going twice? Any
Any
citizens'
citizens?
comments? We have two in the audience. No, thank you
Get up.
kindly. Thank you for hanging out with us this evening, and I move for adjournment.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Everybody have a wonderful evening.